Hey folks, just starting up another best ball draft. This is another one in the mini best ball championship. So this is the $5 $200,000 prize pool, 20,000 to first event. And we're pick number 3, which is nice. I did one off camera where I got pick 10. We took Travis Kelce first. And there's a picture of that team up on the Twitter and on the Instagram. Ended up with Lamar Jackson, Garoppolo, Mariota, Nick Chubb, Kerryon Johnson, Darrell Henderson, Stephon Diggs, Tyler Boyd, Pettis. Pretty decent team. So we're doing a best ball draft on draft. If you guys have not tried draft and you want to try one of these drafts, jump on to draft.com and use the promo code BDGE and you will get a free $3 to draft with. So I'm Stephen Mullen. I do a best ball specific blog for Big Dogs Fantasy. Ooh, nice. A little Zeke at number 3 here. I like it. Now that we know Zeke is not suspended, he is basically tied for my 1-1 with Barkley. I would be taking Zeke first currently because I have higher ownership of Barkley because I was fading Zeke until we found out about the suspension news. So I actually took Kamara and McCaffrey both over him a couple times, which I think was like the correct play. Until we knew for sure that he was not going to get suspended for that stupid incident at EDC. So the Big Dogs draft guide is out now. If you guys do season long, which I assume most you out there do, their draft guide has projections and rankings and all that, but it also has market share numbers, red zone numbers. It has breakdowns from real doctors on all of the different injuries that guys are dealing with. So it goes way above and beyond the normal draft kits. Danitoba getting Melvin Gordon at 1-9 must have felt pretty good. The 110 pick is just bleh to me right now. I have a tough time ranking Mixon, Dalvin Cook, and Chubb. So they're like my next tier of running backs, including, I think, Bell and Connor, but I think that those guys are definitely lower. I have trouble ranking all those guys. Just don't really know what to think of all those situations. Kind of like Chubb the best. I feel like he's going to have tons and tons of touchdown opportunities. So our next blog for next week we're going to have coming out is going to be a complete breakdown of quarterbacks. It's going to have rankings for best ball specific rankings, best ball specific tiers, which are quite a bit different actually than season long tiers. Just because of stacking and stuff, you really want to have your tiers pretty large in best ball because you're already taking into account ADP on all your choices, right? So like a tier break for me is definitely guys where I feel like, okay, this next group is significantly worse. I'm just like, well, I would take that guy over that guy, so maybe he's in a different tier. But my tier breaks are when I feel like there's a clear gap in how good the players are. So I'm guessing we're going to end up with Antonio Brown or Mike Evans at our pick here to go with our Zeke, which is pretty nice. Yep. I figured Williams and Chubbs would go, and then this guy would pick one of Brown or Evans, and we're going to take the other one. All right, I'm going to take Mike Evans here. I slightly prefer him to Antonio Brown. So in round 3, we have the option of considering a tight end if one falls. One might not fall. We could go with a second wide receiver, or we could go with a running back. Top running backs on the board for me is probably going to be Derrick Henry. So it kind of depends who it is. Okay, so we don't have a choice of a tight end, which is fine. So if this guy doesn't take Antonio Brown, that's who we're taking 100%. If not, then we're going to have to make our decision. If he does, I think we're going to take Derrick Henry. So I don't really love taking Derrick Henry, but I feel like the wide receivers we're going to get next round are much closer to Thielen and Hilton. And next round, if we get pinched and David Montgomery and all those type of guys go before us, we're going to absolutely hate the running backs we're looking at. So not the easiest choice there. Definitely would have been if Antonio Brown fell, though. That would have been like Christmas. Not so lucky. So Pro Fisher and Antonio Brown in round 3 probably puts him firmly in the lead. Well, he did take Kittle in round 2, so it kind of just worked out that he made sure he got Kittle. But if I were him, I wouldn't have taken Kittle there. I would have taken Antonio Brown, and then if Kittle had made it back, I'd have been happy. So the way he did it worked out for him better, but I don't think Antonio Brown's usually coming back to you there. I think that is an extremely low percentage that he just managed to hit on there. So yeah, here comes this big running back. So the problem is in round 4 is like I don't really particularly love Thielen or Hilton that much, and the wide receivers that I'm going to be able to pick from in round 4, I'll feel similarly to them about these guys. I mean, they'll be worse, but not like, wow, I really don't want these guys worse. Whereas getting Derrick Henry, I feel like the running backs we'll be looking at in the next round are going to be the type of running backs where I'm like, wow, I really don't want any of these guys. Obviously, David Montgomery could make it back to us, in which case that wouldn't be the case, but David Montgomery is basically like the last running back on this board I'm kind of happy to take. Interested to see where Tyreek Hill goes this time. I've not got him in either of my first 2 of these drafts. I think for me to take him, he has to be there in round 5. And that doesn't happen much. I did get him at the 5-8 of a recent draft, normal draft, not a best ball championship draft. I think his value goes up more in the best ball championship draft, obviously, because he's going to be there all your playoff weeks. But take into account, now he's missing 33% of the weeks. If he did miss his 4 games, he's going to miss 33% of the weeks that you need to get to that point, which is like really difficult. So it's a pretty tough call and pretty tough game to play with Tyreek. There's still 1,000 picks before us. I don't even know who I'm hoping makes it to us at our pick. I like but don't love Kenny Golladay. I like Philip Lindsay fine. I don't hate Sonny Michel, but usually in round 5 I'm looking to take either Mike Williams or Calvin Ridley. Those are my dudes there. There goes Montgomery. Robert Woods will go off the board with this pick. This pick will be Kenny Golladay. It's not Kenny Golladay. Okay, guess we'll take Kenny Golladay. Not in love with it, but it'll do. So we've got Evans and Golladay, Zeke and Derrick Henry. Pretty nice start to this draft. Definitely liking that. Probably be taking a wide receiver with our next pick. Not into round 5, OJ Howard. I'm not considering any of the tier 1 quarterbacks until round 6. I don't like Mark Ingram. I like Philip Lindsay a decent amount, but just not enough to take him over a Mike Williams or a Calvin Ridley. So I'm going to take Mike Williams over Ridley this time because the last draft I did on camera, which was for the same best ball championship, I took Ridley. So I'll have one share of each because I'm going to do 5 of these in total. throw $25 at trying to win that 20 grand first prize. So if there's any regular bettors out there, regular old sports bettors, I just got 35 to 1 on Deshaun Watson for MVP for $100. So I strongly recommend, if you can find those kind of odds, to make that bet. To me, Deshaun Watson is at worst in the top 5 most likely guys to win MVP, and he's 15th in odds, which makes no sense. I mean, it makes sense because of the way the odds are done. The odds are placed according to how people bet. So, like, Zeke is 6 to 1 because so many, like, crazy Cowboys fans bet on Zeke as MVP, even though he's virtually 0% to win MVP. And there's, like Saquon Barkley is ahead of Deshaun Watson. Just the odds are all out of whack because of the way people bet. That's how the casinos decide on the odds. They don't decide on the odds based on what they think the most likely thing to happen is. What they want is like an equal amount of bets on all these things adding up to a zero sum so that they can just take, the vig or the rake off the top and not be exposed to the outcomes. So here with a late round 6 pick, we'll definitely be considering a tier 1 quarterback. We also would 100% consider a Rashad Penny or Darrell Henderson if they made it to us. So we only have 2 people behind us, so it kind of depends on, what quarterbacks go ahead of us. Tyler Boyd is our 4th wide receiver, is awfully enticing as well. There's all the tier 2 tight ends are off the board, so those are not even a consideration at tight end for now. Probably wait till around 8 or 9 to snatch up a tight end. So I would like to get, there goes one of the tier 1 QBs. Just got a Darrell Henderson share, but I'd be pretty tempted to get a second one especially if Aaron Rodgers goes off the board before our pick. Then I think our pick's pretty easy. So the guys I'm looking at right now, 3 picks before us, are Darrell Henderson, Rashad Penny, Tyler Boyd, and Aaron Rodgers. All right, all the tier 1 QBs are off the board. So now we're looking at one of Boyd, Penny, and Henderson. Henderson off the board, so we're either taking Boyd or Penny. Now we get to pick. Well, since I've got 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers, we're going to take Penny. So now we've got 3 of each. So we were missing on Boyd, but that's okay with me. On the way back, we're going to be considering, if he's still there, one of Lamar Miller or Latavius Murray. We'll also be considering Boyd, Alshon Jeffrey, or Pettis if one of them makes it back to us. We'll not be considering Sammy Watkins or Allen Robinson. Lamar Miller's still on the board. Not that interested in that. Wow, Tyler Boyd made it back to us. That's nice. Getting Boyd as our 4th wide receiver is pretty sweet. So right now we've got 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers. So you see why, even though taking Derrick Henry at the early round 3, it hurts, man. You're taking the first running back out of a tier for me, which I don't like being the person to take the first player out of a tier. But when you're in that spot, the whole tier is gone before you pick again. That's what the problem is. So you either be the first person to take somebody out of that tier or miss the tier entirely. And I think missing the tier entirely is even worse. So instead of Derrick Henry, Kenny Golladay, we could have had T.Y. Hilton and Phillip Lindsay. Much rather have Derrick Henry and Kenny Golladay. Jalen Samuels, round 7. Miles Sanders is a guy I think I mentioned in the last video. I like him much more in the Best Ball Championship style than I do in the regular. Lamar Miller is a guy I like a lot less in this style. So we're in absolutely no rush to take any sort of tight end. we can keep it in mind for looking at who's there when it comes back. Quarterbacks we have the most interest in are, based on what we got for receivers, Jameis Winston, Matthew Stafford, Phillip Rivers, Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is pretty far down the list for me, and since I don't think that this is a draft where we're going to end up taking 3 quarterbacks, that I'm probably not going to end up with Andy Dalton. So it's still forever until we pick. So yeah, Tyreek Hill and guys with suspensions in these best ball championships are really tough to judge because you get this huge boost, right, if you get them for those playoff weeks, because you basically at the point where week 12 ends, it no longer penalizes you that they were suspended. But you have to actually come in first to get through phase 1, which is week 1 through 12. And like an 8-game suspension is basically like the entire time, basically the entire first section, like 66% of it. So it's, I don't know, it's a tough game to play there. I think it's better to just not take those guys and then hope to be getting your like late round smash guys from people like, Miles Sanders or Geist that might have a much bigger role at the end of the season than to start the season. So for us, we're kind of interested in the 2 tight ends because we don't have one. We're interested in Ronald Jones. Like most of these wide receivers are pretty interesting. So many of these wide receivers are interesting that like it wouldn't be that crazy to just pass wide receiver and take one on the way back. Well, Njoku going is an easy choice for me. I'm just taking Ronald Jones. He is a tier break for me at running back, even though I'm not convinced he'll be the starter. I still think Peyton Barber could be. And I own more Peyton Barber than Ronald Jones, but I think the ceiling for Ronald Jones is much higher than the ceiling for Peyton Barber, so that's why in these best ball championship type things, I'm more interested in them than I would be in the normal style. So there's we're going to go 0 tight end for sure in this draft, 100%. So we could consider taking Jameis Winston with our next pick if we want. Kind of depends. I don't think we're gonna, because there's still wide receivers I really like on this board. Really like Sterling Shepard, Andrew and Allison. So if we miss out on Jameis Winston, not that big a deal. But he's probably our target for the next round. I tend to wait on quarterback like a lot. I'm either like taking tier 1 quarterbacks or trying to get like the end of tier 2 quarterbacks. Like the end of tier 2 quarterbacks for me are Dak, Big Ben, Breeze, Russell Wilson. Having no tight end and no quarterback is pretty rough because you're forced to make the choice between going 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. And if you have a tier 1 tight end or a tier 1 quarterback, it makes it easier to choose to go just 2 of that position, right? Because you've already put more draft capital into it. But we'll see what's available. When situations like this arise, I usually end up going 2 quarterbacks and trying to find 2 like safe guys. But now we have to consider that this is a best ball championship and not a normal league. So like just cashing doesn't do anything for you. Like just coming in 2nd, 3rd, or 4th place doesn't do anything for you. Still a long time for us to pick here. So I just hit on this last video, but we're going to hit it again, is when you're choosing if you want 2 quarterbacks or 3 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends. A lot of people still kind of are stuck on having 8 wide receivers, which just like isn't necessary. So when you have 2 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, the only guys who really kill you if somebody gets hurt is if one of your 2 quarterbacks gets hurt, right? Because then you either have to take every bad week that your other quarterback has, a bye week can come up, you're taking a 0 at quarterback, which is like, a 20-point a week position, which sucks. So, like, that's why having an injury when you only have 2 guys at a position really just devastates you, whether it be quarterback or tight end. But we've seen from the percentages that the best winning percentage is 7 wide receivers, 6 running backs. So we have to make that choice. Am I taking 2 quarterbacks or am I taking 2 tight ends? And yeah, I usually base it on draft capital, but there's also certain quarterbacks that I feel are more injury risks. So the next article that comes out is going to have a designation for quarterbacks that I feel like are, extra injury risks. So like Kareem Hunt, I took in my last draft when I had Nick Chubb, just because he falls super late in these because he's so terrible for the first half of the year. And that was just kind of like a handcuff thing. I don't think it's really necessary. It was just, I felt like it was really good value at the pick I was getting, and it protected me from some sort of Chubb injury. So if Chubb dominates and most of the Chubb teams make it to the playoffs and then he goes down, I will have Kareem Hunt and they won't. So I like kind of won't lose production at that spot, whereas those guys will. Whitehorse and Celea. I wonder if that's supposed to be Slayer. I guess since he has a big Slayer thing on his thing, it is supposed to be Slayer. Nicole Hart, man, in round 10. Don't do it. Oh, nice. So we got Winston the next round, which is very nice to go with Mike Evans. I was not supremely confident in that. So with us going with the 0 tight end strategy, as long as he's not taken, we all should know who my next pick is. Not Jerick McKinnon. So now we need to get through 3 more picks without our guy getting taken. Can't say his name since they hear me and they take him every time I say it out loud. Nice thing about Winston is, like, I feel like he's a pretty safe guy as far as his job for just specifically this season goes. So we're not going to have to worry about that. He doesn't really seem to get hurt too much. So we're definitely going to look to go 2 quarterbacks. And now we're going to take Dallas Goedert in round 11 and initiate 0 tight end plan. So he is the key player when you try to go 0 tight end, because he's the only guy on the whole tight end spectrum that all of a sudden can jump into the top 3 and start giving you incredible value. Like, if Ertz gets hurt, all of a sudden now you have a top 3 tight end every week. Like, that's what you need when you're playing these gambling games, like not taking a tight end until round 10 or 11. I generally like try to take Goddard in round 10, but I just didn't want to pass Winston when I had Mike Evans, so I gambled a bit. I'm pretty comfortable starting my 0 tight end grouping with Trey Burton too, so. But it's certainly not as exciting as starting with Goddard, who has that incredible upside. Like, there is no incredible upside on Trey Burton, though he's a fine enough player. He's just like good value at where you can get him. So we're definitely going to be looking to go with 3 tight ends this draft, which means we want our second quarterback to be somebody pretty decent, but we have like some options. We can go Matt Stafford with Galladay. We can go Rivers with Mike Williams. We also probably not going to take anybody off the reservation. So the guys that would kind of be off the reservation we'd like are the high upside guys, the low floor guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. But since we're only going to take 2 quarterbacks, I really don't like taking those guys so much. Just because they're going to be running the ball so much. We know the more you run, the more you get injured. So if anybody watches this, let me know how you would rank Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, and Joe Mixon. That is my conundrum right now. The current moment, I have it ranked Mixon, Chubb, Dalvin Cook. But I would actually take Dalvin Cook over Chubb in this specific Best Ball Championship format. Now, if it was a $100 redraft league with my buddies, I would take Chubb over Dalvin Cook because in that type of league, I'm just flat out not going to own Dalvin Cook. Like, not unless he's there at some absurd pick that he'll never be at, just because like the injury is just too much for me. I'm not like throwing down $100 on a league and just watching it incinerate week 1 when Dalvin Cook goes down. But in these type of leagues, where you get a massive payoff if he stays healthy, I am much more willing to gamble on him. So people of interest to us right now are Justice Hill, and then maybe picking up a second tight end. Also, quarterbacks are kind of like flown off the board. I think we could wait at least one pick to take a quarterback. So Justice Hill, Trey Burton. Is pretty interested in Trubisky, and he's gone. It's weird that quarterbacks seem to be going faster in this format. I would think that they would go slower in this format. Trey Burton off the board. This makes our pick like incredibly easy as long as Slaya doesn't do it to us. Nice. So we're just windmill taking Justice Hill here and are thrilled about it. There's not like another quarterback where I like really have interest in them. I might go like just wait on Andy Dalton. I have him with Tyler Boyd. See if Delaney Walker goes or doesn't go. Yeah. I'm going to wait another round on quarterback if I can get Delaney Walker. Cool. So I'm going to consider trying to take Carr and Darren Waller with my next 2 picks. But if we miss out on Carr and we still end up with Dalton, I could go for some sort of like Dalton, Eifert, Boyd stack. Sounds pretty dangerous. I feel like this is another situation where people are either starting to listen to what I've been putting out there on Twitter and these videos about getting the tier 1 quarterbacks a little earlier than usual, or just some weird coincidence of timing where that's happening, because it certainly seems to be happening. And I just put that article out, the 0 tight end article out last week. Not that I see a ton of people going 0 tight end, but kind of the whole purpose for the strategy and the whole reasoning behind why we were thinking up the strategy was because the tier 1 quarterbacks are so much better in best ball than they are in season long. Like, when you can't stream quarterbacks, you can't trade for somebody's backup quarterback that's, maybe like the 6th best quarterback in the league, but because he has 2, the person doesn't really care, and they're willing to give him away for like a wide receiver 3 because they need a wide receiver 3 to play. Like, it's incredibly easy to trade for quarterbacks in season long. And, there's no trading here. You can't stream people off the waivers and keep getting the best matchups. So your choices are draft the best people you can and then hang on. So, yeah, kind of interested in Derek Carr when it comes back to us, if he's there. I think most of these, like, wide receivers you're looking at on the board that are decent will be gone. Devontae Parker is, like, really creeping back up these marks, back up the rankings. The coaching staff and, like, management showed a ton of confidence in him, giving him that extension. But I don't know. He just doesn't ever do it. He does it for like a game or two, and then it's back to poop soup. Oh yeah, I forgot we had Kenny Golladay. So Stafford's still pretty. I would actually take Stafford over Carr. But as long as we get one of those two, I will be happy. The teams behind us have 0 and 1 quarterback between them, so we're definitely going to have to make our quarterback choice before they pick, because 3 quarterbacks could go off the board in their 4 picks, especially when it starts getting down to the dregs here with the Nick Foles and those type of dudes. So Stafford 1, Carr 2. Then I'm probably looking at either a wide receiver if there's a great value on the board, or trying to snatch up Darren Waller as my 3rd tight end. Though I would take either Hamilton or Stills over Darren Waller if they were still on the board, but I don't see that happening. See if there's any really wacky teams like that last draft there. A team with 0 tight ends, that's kind of wacky. A team with 0 quarterbacks at this point, it's a little wacky, but not that wacky. I see people take quarterback just like the last 2 picks sometimes. Sometimes they end up having to take like a Dwayne Haskins as one of the 2 picks, or Eli or Flacco. That strategy, not for me. I actually think quarterbacks are pretty valuable in best ball compared to season long, so I don't want to try to play this like hybrid kind of waiting game. So 2 picks before us, as long as they aren't Carr Stafford, we'll be happy. Sweet. Gross. All right, just because like these guys have to take all of the quarterbacks with their picks, I'm not gonna like let Stafford go by. So we got Stafford Golladay again. It seems to be quite the common occurrence lately, which is odd because I just didn't have much Golladay and then took him 2 picks in a row. So not surprised to see Carr go the next pick after. Not surprised to see Darnold go. So we kind of forced their hand a bit on their picks, which might leave us some decent options. Matt Breida in round 15 would be interesting. It's possible we could get an Eifert or Waller the next round, but I doubt it. CJ Anderson. Do I want to wait? Nah. Just going to go ahead and take Waller. I don't really like having Eifert and Delaney Walker. Like, they're 2 guys in like that injury risk tier of tight ends, so that's why I took Waller there, because I wasn't really comfortable with ending up with Eifert. Below that, I end up picking guys like Will Dissly, which is fine, but also not super thrilled about. So who are we hoping for when it comes back to us? I would like to get one of the impact running back handcuffs like Malcolm Brown or Raquel Armstead. After those 2, Chris Thompson interests me. So So I think we can definitely afford to take like a pure handcuff here because all 5 of our top 5 running backs should be guys that produce for us. Got Zeke, Henry, Rashad Penny, Ronald Jones, Justice Hill. Zeke, Henry, Rashad Penny, Ronald Jones, Justice Hill. It's a pretty nice grouping. Quarterback, we're going to end up with Winston, Stafford, fine, not great. Kind of like the other draft where we ended up with Roethlisberger and Stafford, fine, not great. I like Winston quite a bit more than Ben, so I'm a little bit more comfortable with this one. Wide receivers, we got Evans, Golladay, Mike Williams, Tyler Boyd, Sterling Shepard. So that's pretty solid. I definitely think we can use our last 2 picks on wide receiver. For our 0 tight end strategy, we've got Goddard with Delaney Walker and Darren Waller. That's right on mark with what the plan is. So it's usually Goddard, then someone from a grouping of better tight ends than this, the Mark Andrews, Trey Burton, that grouping if you can get him, Kyle Rudolph. Then if you miss that grouping, I drop down to the injury group of Delaney Walker, Eifert, Olsen. And then I like Waller about the same as that group with Hawkinson, Fant, Waller, Disley. That's my bottom group. So I think the guys we want on the board the most are Malcolm Brown, 1, Reichwell Armstead, 2. Might even be Reichwell Armstead 1 for the purposes of this format. Because he has a better chance of just having like the whole workload. All his, good to go. So I have a couple shares. There goes Malcolm Brown. I have a couple shares of Malcolm Brown in this format, like the other one, the bigger, the $25 $1 million guarantee, and I have some Darrell Henderson. So if it comes to us in a late second round pick, and we're desperate for a running back, we can actually consider Gurley in one of these, just because then we have like every single possible thing that can happen with the Rams backfield covered. Does that mean I'm going to like really look to take Gurley? Am I going to like, is it going to be a plan? Yeah. But like if it happens where it just makes sense to pick him, then I will have no qualms about picking him. All right, so Reichwell Armstead is tops on my list right now. We consider Chris Thompson if he goes. I also would consider Callaway. Could take Callaway either way. If Reichwell goes, I might take Callaway and take Quadri Allison with my last pick. Quadri Allison's like a last round guy that I kind of like the ceiling on, especially for this type of format where, he can be fire for the last few weeks if he ends up in that job. If Freeman dies and Ito's just kind of meh and ends up being a pass catcher. So right now I want Reichwell the most, probably Callaway the second most of what's on the board. Nice. All right. Go ahead and take Reichwell. I'm going to try to get Allison on one of the last 2 teams I draft. So we're kind of hoping Callaway makes it back to us. If he doesn't, all we have left to pick is wide receivers. So might be looking at taking Trey Quinn if Callaway goes. Could also get a Josh Gordon share. I mean, round 17 in this type of format is kind of the exact place you want to take that gamble, right? Where it could pay off to be big time loot. Like, I'm legit going to own 0% Josh Gordon in the regular leagues. So, Yeah, I'm taking either Gordon or Callaway here. All right. I don't think that Josh Gordon's going to play at all this season. So I think that this pick is literally being thrown into the fire. Just gone, wasted. But just that, this is the NFL and anything can happen. We thought that I'm a mumbler. Yes, someone said stop mumbling. I'll try to speak more clearly from now on. Half of my mumbling is because if you notice, my mouth doesn't open all the way. Got my jaw broken quite a long time ago. And that side of my mouth just doesn't open up that much. So where were we at? Oh, Josh Gordon, yeah. So the NFL can do anything, and if the NFL is going to do anything they want, whenever they want, like give Tyreek Hill only 4 games when he threatened his girlfriend on the phone and they have a recording of it, then we have to act accordingly and at least take one shot of Josh Gordon in exactly this type of tournament where it can pay off the most. But yeah, I would suspect he does not end up playing at all. So we're looking at one more wide receiver, and then we're done with this draft. This is like a nice spot to take that gamble on Gordon too. Just on top of everything else, the fact that our first 5 wide receivers are so solid, which Evans, Galladay, Mike Williams, Tyler Boyd, and Sterling Shepard. So I kind of would like a little bit safer last guy if I'm given that sort of choice, but I don't really see too many safe-looking last guys on here. Ted Ginn is probably pretty safe last guy. Marquise Lee is safe if he's not hurt, he'll be good, but we also don't have any competing bye weeks with our entire wide receiver core, so can swing for the fences a bit. Might look to take like a JJ Arcega-Whiteside if something were to happen to Alshon Jeffrey. He could really explode as a rookie. And he's already been getting some work in the red zone at OTAs. They had him, Jeffrey, Goddard, and Ertz all in the field, and no Deshaun Jackson, no Aguilar, which makes sense. But that's going to be a beast of a red zone grouping. Definitely one of the reasons why everybody's high on Wentz is all these different weapons and the addition of Whiteside. It's not as big as the addition of Deshaun Jackson, obviously, but it's nice. So yeah, I'll make an effort to talk more clearly for y'all. Everybody's timing out on this last pick. Brutal. So we want Whiteside the most, and DJ Chark is our backup plan to Whiteside. DJ Chark has a much easier path to getting this, a full-time role, but it's on a much worse offense. And I took Chark the last draft, so I'd rather split one ownership of each than have 2 of one. All right, let's take Whiteside and call it a draft. So the team ended up with Jameis Winston and Matt Stafford at quarterback. Okay, not fantastic. Zeke, Derrick Henry, Rashad Penny, Ronald Jones, Justice Hill, and Raquel Armstead at running back. Very, very pleased with that. Mike Evans, Galladay, Mike Williams, Tyler Boyd, Sterling Shepard, Josh Gordon, and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside at wide receiver. Definitely taking some shots those last two, but I think we're afforded that by having 5 really solid wide receivers, none with competing bye weeks to start the draft. And then with tight end, we went with our 0 tight end strategy, which, it's either going to look fantastic or not so good when the season rolls around. So if something happens to Ertz, obviously we probably, have a really good chance of winning this league. If nothing happens to Ertz, we're still okay, but we're going to need Goddard to take a little bit bigger role. We're going to need Delanie Walker to probably be healthy. We're going to need Waller to maybe step up and actually be the guy that we think he can be. But if any combination of 2 of those 3 things works out for us, then we're in great shape there. All right. Probably won't be doing any more of these until next week, but you will be able to see some more rosters going up on the Twitter and on Instagram. So good luck, everybody, and I hope one of us wins that $20,000 up top in this contest.